Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Hearthstone 4 New Order of America. Let us continue on. Where we last left off. So, major things that happened. Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy was shot. Robert Kennedy has now become the candidate for the NPP, and somehow, I still don't know how he did it, we have made sure that Britain was able to be independent from Germany, because we had like 5 more points of readiness than the Germans had, I guess. I don't know how that happened, but I am happy to see it. Oh, God. Oh, 3 events immediately. Okay. In a nameless bar on the main road of Tanavir, Benjamin Whitney and Megro Rohai watched the procession from the window side booth. The night sky was lit up by fireworks, and all around them was a triumphant cheer. Come tomorrow, they would fight to maintain influence over his island. But on this night, it was a warm glow of victory. They shared beers together and swapped stories of their countries. Their eyes turned to the street, where a jubilant nation held the new national flag. Good for them, said Whitney. Hand on his stub face. Murmured Meguro, taking a sip from his beer. Good for them. Hours ago, the final German base surrendered. The garrison was disarmed, and the men were lucky that they were being shoved onto ships about for East Africa. At a conference on the steps of the Arova in Tanavir, representatives from PAD, ESM, and Tafama declared Madagascar to be a sovereign, independent republic to the joy and relief of the once devastated nation. In front of them now lay a long road to recovery, one that the Malaysian people would gladly walk. When the festivities die down, they will not still suffer a hangover. They will rise with the sun and work with the light heart and the indomitable will. There will be much work to be done. Cities have half collapsed into fighting. Farms have been pillaged to feed the army after army. But they shall endeavor to rebuild their country. Though the powers of the Cold War bicker and the pieces move on the board, this victory belongs to the people of Madagascar. Okay, so that is, again, they're aligned with the Japanese, which is like not super useful for us. The work goes on. Red, white, and blue balloons have colonized the roof of the halls of the Republican Democratic Convention. Whereas the booming commotion indicates, the coalition has come to decide who will be the next presidential candidate. Ignoring the no-hopers, the 2 frontrunners of the Democratic Lyndon Johnson and Republican Wallace Bennett. Young men wearing all the way with LBJ and Bennett for America badges glare at each other through the wafting cigarette smoke. Of course, as it always is since the Senate of Rome, the real decision takes place behind closed doors in a meeting room far removed from the hurly-burly of the convention hall, where a handful of craggy, white-haired men smoke cigars and ponder which man would be more likely to play ball with the big dogs. If they're going to get past Nixon's grace and the year of 3 presidents, they need a candidate who will be able to galvanize the public and counter the sudden powerful NPP. Puffing away, they made a decision of who might govern the United States for the next 4 years, like they will decide what to have for dinner. Okay, so, if you went back and you watched the original TNO USA campaign from, what, like 2021? I don't even remember when the mod came out. We played as LBJ basically from 1964 until 1972 when the mod actually ended. So we're going to go with Bennett, just so if the NPP does lose the election, we're not just playing as LBJ again. So, Wallace Bennett, congratulations. You'll be the candidate here. Does that allow me now to actually see a proper map? Okay, so it's no longer just I win. But I mean, 205 to 129, those are some good numbers. We only need a few states, and I don't know, like Ohio, nobody has a clear lead. Florida, no one has a clear lead. So a couple of the swing states are still very much swinging. A happy ending. A child rode past Marine Corps Private Eugene with what appeared to be a messily painted Union Jack on his face. A couple older than most of the crowd waltzed in the streets, smiling as if they were the only ones in the entire city. A journalist for the Washington Post tried his best to capture the delirium mania of Britain with such a small, antiquated-looking camera, mumbling to himself that the New York Times had better cameras anyway. Part of Eugene wanted to join in, wanted to scratch the surface that he had felt, like, let something out. The other part knew that even standing by the sidelines and watching the English crowd enjoy was enough. He took a camel and faded, brass lighter featuring a hand gripping a torch. His father would always be so proud for his time in the 2nd Marine Division. Even after he had lost so many of his brothers at Guadalcanal, he would have followed his men to the end. He found it in Manchester. He had never been to Britain. These roadside pulp novels of heroic, tragic fightings in London always sold well growing up. There was always a strange pit in his stomach as he passed the comic store in downtown Chattanooga where he grew up. The war was heroic, our weapons mighty, and our soldiers were hardy. And we still lost. Everyone in the neighborhood knew someone who had lost something during the Eisenhower's last futile gamble. If the mask of quiet, desperate stoicism slipped, even for a moment, it would never be able to be fitted back on. Not with the amount of coffins that came home, not with those that didn't. We'll Meet Again was playing in the background from the impromptu PA system that the Collabs had put on for the announcements. Eugene put a cigarette up to his flame and put his foot against his faded brick wall. This was a kind of announcement, this was kind of an announcement, he silently chuckled. One of his fellow privates was gyrating his hips wildly in some attempt to induce the local Lizzies and Bettys to something that he had promised was very cool and very hip back in the States. America is back. Fascism has lost its grip in Britain. His job, as was all of America's, was to pry every single digit from the cliffside. Freedom had to be taken, not earned. Pedro removed the global conflicts. All voters become more internationalists on the issue of foreign policy. There will be an immediate considerable shift towards the Democratic Party. And for George Wallace, Bennett. So Bennett is a Republican. So there is a big shift of support for the Democrats. But remember, the current front runner for the RDC is not a Democrat. He is a Republican. So that support doesn't really benefit the president right now, or the Republican nominee. Presumably, at least. But aside from that, our forces are continuously pushing their way up north. Go up to Odavine over here. Reinforcements will arrive soon as well. Like, we're kind of winning on all fronts. I know, like, the last episode or two, I was all glum because I thought we were going to lose England. But apparently, no. Apparently, we just always win. Who would have thought? Okay, our units are moving up north. The Choice and the Echo. Violet Shafee sat down at her desk in St. Louis, trying to rewrite her book, which she plain entitled A Choice, Not an Echo. She had to throw out her first draft after the altered political landscape of 1964 made her old draft worthless. Richard Nixon, that brute that the liberals were right to call a crook, had done himself in politically. That struck Shafee as being one for the best. Then there was Kennedy, whom Shafee had always hated, but his murder, that had been an awful thing. No one could ever have wanted that. God rest the departed, she muttered as her mind wandered to the present. Goldwater, sabotaged just like Taft by the internationalists, had been forced to pull out of the contest. Now the RDC primary was between LBJ and the feckless internationalist Wallace Bennett. Republican in name only. The NPP was hardly better. Their primary was split between the overambitious lunatic RFK and the unrefined, unsubtly racist liberal Wallace. Deeply dissatisfied with what she saw in front of her in the political sphere, Shafee sorted the old draft into a binder and put it away, hoping that a new version of her book would make a difference in 1968 when she began to write. The political elite kingmaker steal conventions from the average American voter. Okay, so we're defending this quite well. We're going to be able to push you up. This unit, I want you to move your way towards Rundu. Moving past Nixon or saving his legacy. Do you want to try to redeem him, or do we want to try to get past it? More people will get to support the Democrats, or the African Gamble will abandon the war is over, be home by Christmas, curb radicalism, a soul in torment. He was a crook. Okay. Division speed goes up for 60 days. I mean, I guess we're going to try to save his legacy. And then we're going to try to... We're basically going to try to rehabilitate Nixon. Which I'm assuming is probably, like, not going to be great. People don't like him. But we'll try our best. Okay, there's air assault for finish. It's going to make our helicopters a little bit better, which is nice. And we do have some things we can do in our decision tree once the time here is over. Because again, the election is going to be like in 2.5 months, if even. I don't know exactly when the 64 election was, but we are approaching it for sure. 66. You know what? We'll go with the 66 tech. It's not too far ahead of time. And then you are for trying to make everybody like us more. I kind of don't want the coalition to be that powerful for obvious reasons. But we will try our best. We pushed you back. Like, just one infantry division is able to push back a lot of these hostile forces here, which is lovely for us. Okay. The advancement is going well. We do not care about this line at all. Please redeploy our forces. The next supply hub is going to be in Manangwu? Hey, solid MPP campaign. So let's now... Well, here's the thing, right? If it's the Republicans versus basically the Progressives, then do we want... What's the prediction right now? That's... No, okay, this is for the Senate. 19 vote swing. Holy hell. 241 against 78. I mean, we'll campaign here anyways. Campaign itself. See if we can maybe swing Florida towards the MPP. Do the best that they can. Okay, that's now fallen. We have reinforcements. You'll be there in 9 hours. And I think even then you'll be able to hold your own. Tonight on the news. With the election drawing near and the Americans across the nation try to determine who will be they want to select for the highest office in land, we believe it's our duty here at the WCCO to help the residents of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area to fulfill their civic duty. To that end, WCCO has offered the Republican Democratic Coalition, the National Progressive Coalition, and smaller third parties a chance to send representatives to come and discuss their coalition's platform and how the candidates would serve the nation best in the weeks coming to Election Day. One of the biggest issues facing the nation in the 64 election is civil rights. This is a hot-button issue for the past few years, and resulting in fierce and acrimonious debates within both of the national parties, and divisions between the North and South, conservative and liberal. Further fuel on the fire was given to the issue of civil rights, with President Nixon's veto of the Civil Rights Act, torpedoing the major efforts by Congress to solve the problem in a bipartisan manner. Joining us this evening is National Progressive candidate and war hero Winfield S. Cunningham, who for a discussion regarding civil rights of America. So, Captain Cunningham, what is your view regarding the president's actions regarding vetoing the civil rights? Become more conservative or become more liberal? Yes, we need to move forward with integration, not eternal racial divisions. We'll become a little bit more liberal on this. And again, RFK is big on the... You're going to retreat, but I guess it's going to be like no organization anyways. RFK is big on civil rights, so I mean, it makes sense that we will try our best there. It'll I'm assuming support him. Okay, the polls aren't going to be updated. I don't know how often they update. Might take a little while. Well, let's move you in this direction. You're at 63. Bring up here for the support. Flight. Luis and Jean-Claude had remained in Haiti through Batista's war, the political chaos, and the United States intervention. With Luis serving as a nurse in a local hospital, and Jean-Claude helping manage his father's restaurant. The upwardly mobile couple has thought themselves insulated from the violence consuming their home country. Jean-Claude's father had gotten gunned down in the dead of night by a member of the Red Army, and Louise has gotten pregnant. At first, they tried to get through the appropriate channels. Louise and Jean-Claude had presented themselves to the United States Embassy, asking for asylum because of threats against their life. But as it turned out, there were hundreds of couples like them, almost all of them successful middle-class people, terrified of the direction that their country was heading. When, after a long day of waiting, they finally got to talk to a consular officer, they had been given a series of contradictory forms to complete. Jean-Claude had hired a fancy lawyer who had spent days preparing it, only for the application to receive no response at all. As the life of Louise Bellies grew, the two decided to adopt more unsavory methods. They could apply for tourist visas to the States and then try to vanish, but the Americans were suspicious of pregnant women, and the wait there turned out to be even longer than the wait for the asylum visas. They could try smuggling, but the two found the idea of rowing to Guantanamo Bay to be too dangerous to pursue. Finally, Louise had gotten a break. One of the doctors at Louise's hospital knew a consular official at the Mexican embassy who, after a small bribe, would be willing to grant him a temporary tourist visa. From there, they would just need to rent a car and sneak across the border. The two packed their bags with as much as they could. They tried not to think about that they were leaving behind, as they locked their apartment for the last time and boarded a plane to Hermosillo. There, they converted their money and rented a car. They learned that even the most upstanding official could be encouraged to look the other way with enough money. So we have 66 political power. I need to give more money to... Okay, we have 4 days until you're ready to go. Not currently aiding. 40 days. To legitimize the proclamation, will put our preferred candidate in the Philippines. I mean, I think we need to do this. We have 2 days until this is ready to go, and then we're going to do the delegitimize. I can't speak English, apparently. Cold reception. Rob quickly whipped open the door of Jack's office open, slid inside, and shut it behind him. As Jack looked up from his desk, Rob was still peering through the office blinds, double checking to see if he was not being followed. But how close the followers were behind him? Rob, what the fuck? Jack asked, bewildered, as Rob wiped the sweat off his face. It had to be one of the colder days of the month, and Rob still seemed like he had just run a marathon. Right? And they think that we have something to do with this. Rob nearly yelled, constantly looking back through the blinds at his followers. Jack took a deep breath. Robert, what are you goddamn talking about? He finally asked. Jack, you ignorant bitch. What I'm talking about is paper from the time of Greenland. Commies, Jack. They snapped some pics of counter-riot procedures, and now they're getting their shit. Now we're getting shit just because they're supposed to be hobos. Read this. Rob slapped the newspaper onto the desk. It took a mass poverty and a staunchly pro-American bias in everyday society, a pro-Yankee bias, anyways. Alongside the photos covering the front page of handless freezing hobos getting gassed certainly were evocative enough for the opposition to begin forming around the topic, especially with the Alaskans. Rob, you're right. I'll begin looking into this immediately, Jack said, not having noticed that Rob was staring at him. Jack nodded. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Have a good day, Robert. With that, Rob left the office and continued with his day. Jack sat there and knew that Rob was right. This could wind up with a real problem. It took more than a few decades, but this might actually make the people give a shit about Greenland. Jack dialed up his superior. Jack here. We might have an issue. But Corman had never seen the capital in such chaos. He didn't know if it was worse because he was seeing the ugliness and confusion behind the scenes for the first time, or if it really was just that bad. It was made all the worse by the fact that no one was actually sure if he was supposed to be the one filling the role of the president at all. He was the Speaker of the House, or rather, he had been. Now he was president, or acting president, something no one was actually too sure about. And this was only worsening the situation. Kenny's cabinet was unsure if they should be coming to him for approvals or continue on with their own initiatives. He was sure the intelligence community, particularly the CIA and the FBI, were not giving him full briefings for security reasons, and the military was taking a similar, if not more neutral approach. The chain of command was shot to hell, and it was grinding everything to a halt or actively sabotaging what little was working. There was already debates on how the legitimate any legislation he signed into law was, generously assuming that he had gotten that opportunity. And if the Supreme Court was to intervene, there's no precedent for the scenario. The one thing no one had expected to happen, happened. The sole saving grace in this entire fucking situation was that the legislator had ratified the 22nd Amendment. And now all the states were scrambling to hold votes to ratify it and end the constitutional crisis. Even still, it would be months before this was done. Months where the government would be stuck in a strange, uncertain limbo. But Corman knew that some kind of status quo would emerge eventually. But it's going to be painful, difficult, and throughout it, all he had to do was keep it from getting worse. Well, right now, again, it's still September. You have been pushed back. Move your way here. I want you to move your way to this city and then up to north. I mean, you're all looking great. Southwest Africa, what are you currently at? You have fallen yourself down to 53%. We love to see it. These two provinces don't matter. You are worth 5 victory points. So you know what? Let's see if we can maybe put some pressure there. Because I think we kill Southwest Africa and we move our way up towards Leopoldville. Probably at that point kill Central Africa and then move our way over to Ostafrika. That makes the most sense given the kind of what we're seeing right now. Okay, let's take this going. Reconstruction is currently at 35% towards completion. We can spend some more money when we can. And for our research, what do we want? We will take this bad boy. 88%, 89%. We're getting close. A new genre arises. For American observers, the Libyan interior, with its half-abandoned villages, modeling dry plains and brush that roll for miles without end, strikes similar to the long-gone days of their own Wild West. Much like their frontier, Libya is rife with outlaws and constabularies, saloons of sin, and banks of marble. And poor settlers caught in the middle as they toil for their miserable livings out in the sands, streaked with blood and oil. Never in the present has there been a depiction of the mythological age truer than Italy's youngest province. Italian filmmaker Sergio Leone demonstrated his awareness of such when he released a when he released for a few dollars more late this year. Featuring up-and-coming Hollywood actor Clint Eastwood as a rough-speaking mercenary, the movie brought new life to an old genre while introducing its own refreshing themes. The spaghetti western has been born. This time actually, are the spaghetti westerns made in Italy? I don't know that much about, you know, a fistful of dollars and all of that. To be quite honest with you. Want to keep some pressure on you where we can. I want you to put some pressure this way. National focus. Let's do the African gamble. It's going to give us a 5% attack bonus, which I know is not a ton, but it still ain't bad. But I will say that at least for right now, it's going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So if you've enjoyed, remember thumbs up. Not enjoyed, give a thumbs down. You want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.